When I woke up, I found myself in a dark passage. Rising from the dusty floor and rubbing my head, I realized I had no memory of who I was or how I'd ended up in this strange place. Despite my confusion, I felt an urgent need to get out as soon as possible. The passageways were like a maze, leading nowhere. It felt like I was trapped in a European castle. Great, I can remember Europe and castles, but not my name? How pathetic is that? I wandered the corridors for what felt like hours until I hit a dead end. Frustrated, I turned back, searching for another way out. When I reached an intersection I passed before, a thick fog and soft light appeared to my left. As I peered closer, I saw a tall, well-built figure walking toward me. At first, I felt relieved, thinking I had been saved. I waved my arms and shouted, trying to get his attention, but received only silence in return. My excitement soon turned to terror. When the fog cleared, I saw that the man was dressed in an old military uniform. I couldn't pinpoint the exact era, maybe the 1600s or even earlier. What was unmistakable was that he was headless. He had a flat edge where his shoulders should be. A ghastly, screeching sound, like metal on a chalkboard, filled the air. Then I noticed that in his right hand, he was dragging a large handle connected to a chain. At first, I couldn't see what was on the end of the chain, but as the headless man approached, I began to hear groans and loud panting. Without warning, the figure swung at me, and a large spiked metal ball flew toward my head. As he swung, a loud shriek echoed through the corridors. I managed to duck back to avoid it, and the spiked ball got stuck in the stone wall. Recovering from the shock, I looked up and saw that the spiked ball was not a ball at all. It was a human head cast in iron. The face on the iron head expressed agony and pain. The mouth was open to reveal a metal tongue, and the eyes were closed. What is this thing? I thought. With a huge jerk, the figure released the iron head from the wall, and it screamed again. Then he swung at me again, the spiked head emitting that dreadful scream. This time, he missed, hitting the space between my legs without leaving a scratch. The face on the iron head looked straight at me, then suddenly opened its eyes, revealing blood-filled sockets. The head screamed so loudly that I thought my ears would rupture. The figure pulled the chain again, readying for another strike. Before I knew it, I was racing down the corridor like a bat out of hell. I don't know how long I ran, but I soon found myself in the center of the maze. It was a four-sided corridor with what appeared to be a bottomless pit in the center. As I stumbled into it, I almost fell. I stopped just in time, my feet hanging over the darkness below. I looked up and saw more halls above the one I was in, but there was no sunlight. Then I heard footsteps approaching from behind. I turned my head over my shoulder and saw the fog parting as he approached. I thought I could run. I had two choices, right or left. But as I was halfway to my feet, the stone bricks lining the floor began to crumble like dominoes. It started on the opposite side from me. I heard a loud cracking sound as the floor collapsed around me. I was left on a narrow walkway that felt like a pirate's plank. The figure slowly approached, dragging that strange weapon behind him. I was left with two choices: jump and hope I survived, or stay and surely die. Without a moment's hesitation, I jumped into the abyss below. As I fell, the headless creature looked down at me from above, dangling the chain over the darkness. Then I woke up in my bed, screaming until I was in a sitting position. I was in a cold sweat and breathing heavily. I quickly looked around the darkened room, but didn't see anything unusual. Everything in the apartment was normal. Then a memory came over me. My name was Steven Tyler. I remembered everything now. Lying on the bed, I breathed a sigh of relief. It was just a dream. Thank God, it was just a dream. I slowly drifted off to sleep, smiling as I did. In the morning, I got up and returned to my daily routine. I brushed my teeth, took a 20-minute shower, made myself breakfast, and then got dressed in my suit. I remembered working as a paralegal at a law firm downtown. The day started like any other until I opened the door. There were police everywhere in the hall. Passing my door, I went down to the apartment at the very end of the corridor. The flashes illuminated the shadows as photographs were taken. In the doorway of this apartment, I saw a group of people, all wearing jackets with CSI written on them. They were muttering to themselves, but they were talking so loudly that it was difficult not to overhear snippets of their conversation. At that moment, a neighbor from the apartment to the left of mine came up to me and said, "Yeah, they showed up literally 5 minutes ago. The superintendent called them not long ago. What's going on here?" With a loud sigh, my neighbor replied, "Well, I guess I'll tell you. Apparently old Mrs. Bitterman was slain last night." Slain? Yes, beaten to death with some large, heavy object. I heard one of the policemen talking about the details. They think she may have been murdered in the middle of the night, but I didn't hear anything last night. Did you? I thought for a moment and said, "No, I didn't hear anything from her apartment. I woke up from the strangest dream, but I didn't hear a single thing." A detective approached the two of us. He looked us over for a moment before asking, "Which one of you is Steven Tyler?" "That's me," I replied. "Did you hear anything last night?" asked the detective. "Like I was just telling my neighbor," I said, pointing to the neighbor, who then waved to the detective. "I didn't hear anything." "Okay, Mr. Tyler, do you have any enemies?" asked the detective. What kind of question was that? What did I have to do with Mrs. Bitterman's murder? Yes, we were neighbors, chatted, said hello in the hall, but I barely knew the woman. And why would I have enemies? I worked in a law firm, but it was mostly office work. Very few of our clients even knew I existed. My family was pretty normal, and I had great friends. Why would I have enemies? I told the detective I had no enemies. He then asked me to follow him to the apartment. Walking through the crowd of people, I saw the scene. There were large holes in the walls, blood splattered everywhere, grisly boot prints all over the floor, and Mrs. Bitterman's body being taken away in a body bag. How could no one hear what this abhorrent creature did? Finally, to my horror, my eyes widened as the detective pointed something out to me. A message, written in blood, read, "One life for another, Steven Tyler." My God, did the creature in my dreams slay her because I was alive? Tell me it was just a dream.